Cora speaking.
Hi, is we scheduled an interview with you at 12:15. I think it was me and my partner for my school project. I was wondering if we could do that right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know, like, we might be like alternating between like us talking, but it'll be one at a time. Just like.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
So my first question is like, what do you guys do there at Insight?
So we are providing a safe space for people to use their drugs while preventing overdose deaths and the transmission of diseases like HIV and hepatitis and other bloodborne transmitted diseases.
Oh, can you explain the process of that? Like, how would you like how does that happen? Like,
so we have a facility that seats 13 people. And when people arrive, they come and they check in. They use a handle, what could be an anonymous alias for them to use the site. So we do keep everybody's identity completely confidential. And they check in with our mental health worker staff and then sign in. They'll put on our wait list, and when there is a space available in our consumption room, they are brought in and they let our staff know what substances they'll be using during their visit. We sit them down and they use clean, sterile equipment to consume their drugs. From there, we have staff monitoring them, including a nursing team. So if anything was to happen, we'd be able to provide medical assistance. And after they're finished, we have a lounge for them to hang out in and relax.
Okay. So 13 people at a time, right?
Yeah, we have 13 booths inside. So each person sits in one. It's one person per booth. And then inside of our waiting room, we kind of have many people sitting in there. And in our lounge, we can have many people sitting in there as well.
So in like the typical day, how many people would come like throughout the whole day, like average? Like,
it averages from 300 to 500 visits per day.
Okay. Do you guys also work with disposing needles?
Yes. Yes, people can bring in used syringes or used harm reduction equipment and dispose of it safely here. And they can also obtain clean, sterile equipment to take home with them as well.
What does the needle disposal process look like?
They just bring us their used syringes in a safe container, and then we dispose of it for them. We have an external service provider that comes to collect our hazardous materials every week.
This one's more of a personal question, but why do you choose to work at Insight?
Well, I've worked here for 7 years, and I have always felt very interested in the well-being of people that use drugs, and that's kind of what led me to this work. I grew up in Vancouver, and I've always been interested in this area, the downtown east side area, so I'm really interested in helping people in this area and hopefully creating solutions for people in the long term.
How did Insight start?
So all that stuff can be found online really easily, but we started in 2003, and it was a result of the uptick in overdose deaths and disease transmission that were being experienced by intravenous drug users. So if you look it up, you'll see the community was really involved with opening up the site, and then in partnership with other organizations, they were able to open the site.
Have you ever seen any sort of addicts maybe recover over time?
Yeah. So people with substance use issues, they're able to access our withdrawal management service, which is called On-Site. So upstairs, we have 2 levels, and people that are interested in, maybe getting on a replacement opioid therapy, getting off of a street supply, kind of resetting or maybe seeking longer-term recovery, they can access our withdrawal management services. So, yeah, we have seen lots of people who were previously quite street entrenched kind of get back on their feet, so to speak. And some have maintained, like a substance-free lifestyle. Others, we may see them again. It's totally case by case.
Okay. So I had a question. So do you guys like house these people? Like, how long would they stay at the facility? Like, is it like is someone suffering from addiction? So would you keep them for as long as they would recover from the addiction, or how would that work?
So are you referring to our withdrawal management?
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on the person. Not every single person that arrives at our facility is unhoused. Some do already have housing. For those that don't have housing, if they are staying at our detox facility, then often, yes, there is a plan to connect them with housing. So that would involve case planning with a social worker, which we do have one working at our detox facility. So they work with the client or the participant to arrange like longer term plans, such as like obtaining housing. So some people would end up staying until they find housing if they transfer to like our longer term care.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, some unfortunately aren't able to find housing by the time they leave due to various circumstances. So sometimes they do end up leaving and they are continue to be unhoused. But yeah, we unfortunately don't have too much power or capability to just automatically house people, but we do have lots of resources at our fingertips and lots of community partners that can assist us in hopefully housing many of the people that we see come through the door.
Okay. And so since the start, or like you started working 7 years ago, have you seen progress with the situation, like at the Hastings, or what would you say?
There's been progress in some ways in terms of how many harm reduction services are available now.
Okay.
There are more safe consumption sites that are open, more places that provide harm reduction supplies. There are some more outreach services that are helping connect people who might have mental health issues or other physical health issues. So there's a few more services that have developed over time with more funding put into the crisis. But there, I would say, the overdose crisis has not really improved or made a ton of progress. It's just sort of a result of ineffective drug policy.
Okay.
I think most people would agree.
Okay, so there have been improvements in harm reduction sites, but not overdose, you would say, right?
Yeah. And I should clarify that when a lot of people say overdose, it actually it's more of a drug poisoning, because many people that are taking the substance, they're taking the amount that they would normally take.
Oh, okay. The toxicity,
but because of there's so many toxic substances in the street supply that people unfortunately don't know what they're taking, and thus are poisoned rather than overdosing.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's the right word. Yeah. And you have any?
So when someone goes through a drug poisoning at Insight, what does that process look like? What would you guys do for it?
Yeah, so we treat these things like it's not much different than an overdose response. When somebody, say, was to overdose from maybe taking too much heroin or fentanyl, we have an overdose protocol which involves providing oxygen, and we provide naloxone administration to the person. So that's all managed on site with our mental health and nursing team. And then if somebody has experienced like a poisoning from something that's not an opioid, for instance, like a benzodiazepine, which is found in a lot of the street supply right now, we provide care that involves maybe monitoring that might last several hours, because sometimes people are not fit to leave the site right after because naloxone doesn't have an effect on those other substances. It only works to reverse opioid overdoses. So it just involves a little more lengthier periods of care at our site. So sometimes we have people that are here for several hours before they're able to go on, or we may have to arrange for ambulance transport.
Okay. So from your personal experience, for let's say like harm reduction for addicts, what would you personally say to fix this issue rather than what's happening already? What reforms would you like in your opinion make to maybe better the situation?
In my personal opinion, I would really like to see more progressive drug policy reform. Just in the news today, it was announced that British Columbia would be decriminalizing possession of small amounts of illicit substances, which is a good start, but the amounts are very small and not really reflective of what community members might be holding or consuming at one time. So it would be great to see that expansion. Definitely moving in the direction of decriminalization and regulation, like we see with alcohol regulation. I think personally that is what I believe would be effective as part of like a broader a broader response. So that would involve more access to treatment for people who do want to go to treatment, and also acceptance of recovery as not only abstinence-based, because that can be a barrier to some people. And an expansion of more harm reduction services. It needs to be one piece of a bigger platter of options for people.
Okay, perfect. Do you have any more questions? That's all the questions we have, but thank you so much.
We learned a lot today. We did learn a lot.
Great.
And it
Well,
really
thanks.
helped. We can play some of these